That's it. Start cheering. Bring that up. Bring that up. Please welcome to the stage the wonderful Herat.
Evening, Plymouth. We well?
Yeah.
It's lovely to be back here in Plymouth. Now, the last time I was here was on a school trip, and the school trip climaxed with a disco in the aquarium, which is possibly one of the most unbelievably bad events I've ever been to in my entire life. The best way I can describe it is it's a bit like having a funeral in a bouncy castle. It just feels wrong on all levels. Now, I'm not an expert on discoing, as you may have guessed by the fact I referred to it as discoing, but I can't imagine that Fatboy Slim, when he's planning his next tour of the greatest disco locations in the world, thinks, right, I need to go to Ibiza, Tokyo, Plymouth Aquarium. Can't get my head around that. Anyway, I bought a loaf of bread the other day. I know what you're thinking. Finally, a stand-up who's dealing with the hard-hitting topics of society, but bear with me. So I bought this bread, and I noticed on the packet was a picture of a sandwich, and below that, the word serving suggestion. Who's that for? I mean, it must be for someone, otherwise they wouldn't have gone to the effort of putting it on the packet. Somebody must have bought a loaf of bread and been so baffled by its contents that they were at a complete loose end. I like to think they even wrote to the company. Maybe it went something like this. Dear Kingsmill, I recently purchased one of your soft-seeded batch and was totally mystified to find it lacking any guide or supporting material. After days of experimentation, I have at least ascertained that it makes an extremely poor draft excluder, dream catcher, and iPod docking station, and a totally inadequate fireguard, though the latter did produce a favourable browning effect and appetising smell. Awaiting your response, you get the idea. But so many things these days have serving suggestions. Crisps have them. Put in a bowl. Thank you for the guidance. I was thinking of tiling my bathroom with them. Ice! Ice has a serving suggestion. Put in a glass. Again, thanks for the guidance. I was thinking of oven roasting it. I don't have much luck with food, to be honest. I took a friend out for a meal the other day. He's so posh, this guy. He asked the person serving us for the chef's recommendation. He asked the sommelier to recommend a wine. We're at the counter of Subway. He really regretted giving his keys to the guy outside for valet parking. Now, I was at the same friend's house the other day after the Subway fiasco, and I noticed that all he had in his cupboards was quinoa. The one time I needed a serving suggestion, and I was left completely on my own. I had no idea. I kebabbed it. It was all right. Now, it was only recently that I realised that Subway was actually named after the American sub roll, and not, as I thought, a urine-soaked underpass, which I'd always thought was a brave name choice. And it got me thinking of potential names they may have overlooked. Eat fresh at vomit-stenched stairwell. Have it your way at phlegm-drenched bus stop. Fecal-smeared lift. Sounds like a band, that, fecal-smeared lift. Or a primetime Channel 5 quiz show. Fern Cotton's fecal-smeared lift. Now, you might have noticed I'm not a particularly walky comedian, and that's because I've got a mobility disorder. It's not exactly a disability. It's more like dyslexia for your legs. But growing up, I tried to let it not affect me. And at school, they did everything to make sure I wasn't treated differently. Take sports day, for example. They insisted I was part of the running team. I was the finish line! When my school announced that they were going to start a trampolining team, they proudly offered me a key role, I was the safety net. I spent 8 weeks stood like this. I'll be honest, I'm not sure what good me standing like this really did, because if and when someone did fall, I simply stepped to the right and allowed them on their way. What makes it worse is 7 weeks in, I discovered a cupboard filled with safety nets. I can imagine the teachers gathered in the staff room saying, Nathan must never see that cupboard. He can never know he can be replaced by simple mesh and nylon. It wasn't all bad though. There were some perks. Like I got an extra half hour in exams. I'm not really sure what my legs had to do with my ability in exams, but I suppose having spent 8 weeks as a safety net, they probably thought my career aspirations weren't particularly high. I don't know though, I had aspirations to be all sorts of things. A goal net, tennis net, basketball hoop. Things got silly when they gave me a laptop. My friends seemed to think it was like bullseye. Just because you've got a limp, they've given you a laptop. If you'd lost a limb, you could have won a speedboat. Speaking of losing limbs, everybody likes a smooth transition to the next part of my set. I play for a disability football team, and they've recently brought in this rule around match day legs. So, a player will turn up to the ground in his everyday lounge around the house legs, and in 2 quick clicks, he's David Beckham. They even have set piece legs. Taking a corner, 2 clicks, ready to go. Penalty, same again, 2 clicks. Throw-in legs. That doesn't even require legs. They'll have a 4th official stood at the sidelines with a rack of legs, all... That's not a punchline. A rack of legs, all with boots and socks. It looks like he's looted Sports Direct, but really badly, and only taken the window display. Now, having a mobility disorder means that I have to plan ahead, especially if the situation requires me to act fast. So, there's a dark, creepy lane near where I live, and I always make sure I can see to the other end and that there's no one in it, because I always think it's the perfect place for a mugging. Now, the other night I heard the dreaded sound of footsteps behind me, so I got faster. They got faster. I got faster. And this carried on for a little while, until I eventually broke out into a run. Now, as we've established, running is not really my forte. Let's just say I run less like Usain Bolt and more like someone who's been shot in the leg with a bolt gun. As I was running, I felt in my pocket to see if I had any money to give this person, and realised I was completely skint, and I didn't know if muggers accepted IOUs. I tried to give it one last burst. As I did, I glanced back. Please be an old woman with a Zimmer frame. But instead, what greeted me was the most biggest guy I have ever seen. So well built, shaved head, tattoos all up his neck. He shot past me, turned, looked me bang in the eyes and said, I flippin' hate that lane. Plymouth, you've been lovely. I'll see you again soon. Thank you.